Google reports after the close today, and in the last week or so, we've heard Google say it's going to develop Google cars, Google wind power, Google economic indicators. Will any of these turn out to be a dependable revenue stream for Google? With his answer, we check in right now with Bill Whyman. He is head of tech strategy research at the International Strategy and Investment Group. Bill, thanks so much for joining us this morning. So of all the products that Google has talked about, let's just say in the past 4 weeks, are any of these a winner to you as far as revenue stream goes?
I think the one that's most important longer term is going to be their Google TV product. The announcements around wind power, around automobiles, these are important, but they're really secondary. And I think investors are really focusing on how is this going to drive, their core business? How is it going to drive revenue reacceleration?
Bill, wouldn't you say, though, that investors in Google are maybe more of a tolerant bunch than some other investors, meaning they're people who bought into the idea of a creative firm, one that takes risks? I mean, we've been talking about the fact that prior with even the search function, they weren't making money on that to begin with, and look at what a boon that's turned out to be.
That's right, and I think Google's, from its very start in its DNA, been a different company, an unusual one that prides itself on thinking big. The tension will be time horizons. How long does it take these new investments to generate revenue for investors? What's the appropriate time frame? And I think people are now more concerned about what's going on in core search, or talk about Android and mobile, where they've actually, I think, had great success with Android. But the question is, okay, what's the next step? How do you monetize this? How do you make money off of this?
What do you make of the idea, Bill, that many companies these days are slowing back? That is to say, slowing back in what the capital expenditures, slowing down in hiring. And Google seems to be going full steam ahead as if it were 3 years ago.
Yeah, so I think this is a broader issue, not just for Google, but for all of tech, where particularly on the enterprise side, we see growth rates slowing. And companies are taking a different range of views. Some are saying, well, I'll try and consolidate my sector like an Oracle. Others are saying, well, try and cut costs and drive earnings and buy back stock. Google is really going pedal to the metal. They're looking big, they're looking broad, and I think we can expect them to continue to push these new areas, and they just have a very challenging management issue with investors to say, yes, these are important, but we recognize that core search, mobile, YouTube, and monetizing video, we also have a plan to actually generate revenue from these over the next 6-12 months.
Bill, we're taking a look at the car that drives itself that Google is working on right now. Obviously a pretty impressive undertaking. Google added 2,000 workers during the first half of this year. If you look at what they did last year, they laid off about 500 people. How much do you look at that, what they're doing with their staff, as far as what the company's strategy is?
Right, so the expense management side, I think, is secondary. So long as Google can demonstrate that they're keeping core search humming, in other words, they're fighting off Microsoft, they're growing the display business, they're making incremental progress around mobile ads, the expense issues are secondary. Where expense starts to matter is if you're not getting the revenue acceleration that the market is looking for, and then people start raising questions and say, well, what about all these secondary projects? Where is this expense coming from? Why are you, focusing on these secondary issues? So I think it's one piece of the puzzle, but it's secondary to the question of where's the growth and can they sustain the high growth levels that investors want and expect from Google.
Bill, thanks so much for the time. Bill Wyman joining us there from the International Strategy and Investment Group.